Welcome to Sandwich Seniority. I'm your host, Robbie Haig, and thank you for being here. We always appreciate your time. Today I'm interviewing Hadley, I got that right, Hadley Luddy, yes. Who is the director of Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and also Doris Canozzi, who herself is and has been a big sister for about 10 years, I do believe. Welcome to the Seniority Show.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here. It's always wonderful.
It's good to be here.
Give us a little background on yourself.
Okay, sure.
Hadley.
So I'm new to the position. It's been just over 4 months since I joined Big Brothers Big Sisters. Prior to that, I worked with Community Connections, which is based out of South Yarmouth, serving people with disabilities.
Okay.
As their Vice President of Development and Marketing, where I was for almost 10 years.
Wow.
So this was...
It's interesting to hear all of these different communities there are
Sure.
that we just don't know about. So I'm
There's
sorry
a
to
large
interrupt you.
nonprofit world out there on Cape Cod.
Isn't that true?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So I came into this position with a real interest in helping Big Brothers, Big Sisters to recruit more volunteers, to raise more money, to really try to grow and impact more children on the Cape and Islands. We've got some very significant goals of trying to reach out to more children in the coming years. We really feel like we've got a wonderful model that works effectively, matching children in the community with adults, caring, responsible adults who make a huge difference in helping kids get on the right track in life.
So give me an idea of how you interview the kids, how you know what kids are out there who need help.
That's a great question. So one of the nicest things about our program is that it's really a partnership between the parent, the little, we call them littles.
The little.
Okay.
Very good.
And so there's really a partnership between the parent, often the school, or a person that maybe has made the suggestion to the parent or guardian that our program would be a good fit for the child. And our case managers go out and they meet with the child and their parent or guardian in their home. They really get to know them, get to know what their interests are. We really want to, more than anything, find a great fit between a volunteer and a child. So we do a lot of work both with the kids that are coming into the program and also our volunteers to make sure interests are aligned, that everyone's sort of in agreement in terms of who they're looking for a good match and a good fit. And this obviously includes the parent as well. So we like to really stress to people how involved the parent is in most cases in supporting and encouraging the match between the big and the little.
I guess what my question is what are the needs? Obviously a child has needs to come into this program. So basically, what would some of the needs be? Would it be a reticent child, someone who doesn't get out into the community a great deal, or what?
Well, I can address sort of the bigger picture, and then I think Doris can certainly give you some perspective in terms of her work with us. The bigger picture really is that these are primarily children that are coming to us with some economic disadvantage. Definitely struggling with resources that their family has. So some of that may mean that the parent is not able to take the child out into the community as often as they'd like to. There are also maybe a number of siblings in the situation. So again, that one-on-one time that the child is getting with an adult is really limited. And more than anything, it's really a child that is in need of a caring, responsible adult who will benefit and enrich their lives to help to keep them in school, to help them make better choices. They may have been exposed to some circumstances and situations that aren't ideal, and to improve their self-confidence. And so that tends to give you sort of the bigger picture of what kids need and what they're looking for. And I think, certainly, Doris, you can talk about what your experience was as a big and the things that you saw.
I think to some degree it's some of the children come from a single parent household, as mine did, but it was a very troubled household. So there were many issues to deal with, but I think it's the big piece of it is just being a mentor to a child and having that outside influence on them. I think that children are always different with their parents than they are with an outside person. And I think that sometimes we could be as great an influence on them as their parents can be.
Right.
Positively, in a
Yes.
positive manner. But yeah, it's, in my situation, it was somebody that came from a very disadvantaged background.
Okay. Now, you mentioned there could be siblings on the scene. And now, is there an instance, or has there been an instance where you would take care of two children in the same family?
Ideally, we wouldn't do that. We might match two children with two separate mentors.
Okay.
And there are certainly circumstances where a sibling will get involved, and that really depends on the situation. But ideally, we're really doing a one-to-one match. Again, really the emphasis is on a child getting that one-to-one quality time with an adult.
Good.
So if it's possible, we try not to have other people involved, but there's certainly situations where people have our volunteers have kids.
So many different
family members,
situations.
and where a sibling
Right.
gets involved, and I know
I sometimes took my little sister with us on outings, especially if it was her birthday and I took her out for dinner.
Oh, very good. So it could be a troubled household, or it could just be a household where the family members both work. Something of that situation.
Could be that, and I think there's really varying extremes of what we find. I've heard a lot of stories about it. Might be a single dad has a daughter and feels like a big sister would be a great addition
Excellent.
to the family.
Sure.
More often than not, it's a single parent situation.
That's interesting, because I kind of feel, don't know the answer to this, but I feel that it would be more difficult for a father to come forward and try to find someone for this female child.
I think maybe there's some hesitation at first, but this is
Right.
again where that really nice partnership that we've got with
Right.
referral sources like schools are so important.
Excellent.
And
Sure.
talking to people like you and getting the word out.
Very good.
For families to feel like they can reach out to us and see this as a support, not a barrier. Nobody's coming in to investigate or ask questions about the family. We're just really
Right.
trying to support a parent or a guardian in their raising a child
Sure.
in the way that they want to.
And I need to ask also, this is a volunteer position?
Yes, yep. It's a volunteer
Wonderful.
position. We're looking for people that can make a minimum commitment of 1 year. And a lot of people say, geez, that's such a huge commitment, but we're talking about a couple of hours, a couple of times a month. And when you think about kids, and especially kids who've experienced some degree of loss, which is often the case,
Right.
we need to be able to make that commitment.
Sure. A year goes by so fast.
It does. It goes by. And actually, our matches on the Cape last upwards of 3 years.
Oh, wonderful.
Which gives you a sense of how well people are paired together.
Sure.
And we get a lot of questions, especially from people in the retiree community, saying, well, if I go away for a month in the winter, can I still do this? And what we are trying to do now is to set up situations like Skype or phone calls or email. There are ways that we can be creative around communication. We don't want someone's travel schedule to be the only barrier to having a really terrific volunteer step forward.
And you mentioned retirees going on
Right.
vacation. Retirees as big brothers and sisters?
Absolutely.
That's very interesting.
Well, it's a large population on Cape Cod.
Right, and a giving
A
population.
giving population. I think they've got a lot to offer. We've got so many people that have such rich backgrounds professionally in terms of what they can bring for perspective. I think people that have lived in other parts of the world and country. And in a lot of cases, too, our littles are living with younger parents. And so I think that perspective of a person who's a little bit older and wiser
Right.
is terrific.
Kind of sort of the grandparent image,
To some
which is
degree.
not all bad.
It's not bad at all.
Yeah.
No, it's really, it's a caring, responsible adult mentor. So
Very good.
whether that person's in their 30s or their 70s
Sure.
isn't really the issue for us. It's making that good fit, that good match.
So, getting to that, and I wanted to talk to you, Doris, about your 10 years in this. You
Which
haven't
flew.
had. Pardon me?
It flew by
I'll
so
bet
fast.
it did. I'll bet it did.
Yeah.
And what's the average that you have been a big sister to a little? Is it the same one for the 10 years?
Yeah. it's been
One
the
for
same-
10? Oh, my
one for 10 years.
goodness, that is
She
really.
was 7 when I met her, and she's 17 now.
Oh, that's commendable.
Yeah.
It is.
To
Nice
you
sister
for
woman.
volunteering and also to be able to be with a child like a family member for
Well, I
10
have to
years.
say, I think part of that is we were very well matched. It took probably took about 5 months to find what the caseworker thought was a great match for me.
Excellent.
Because of my interest in animals and just overall interest. I live by the water, and so
And you actually care for animals.
I do. Yeah, I have a doggy daycare.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, which she has come to on many occasions.
Very good.
Actually, I have a golden retriever that I adopted because of her.
Oh, how nice.
And she was 9 years ago.
Wow.
So, but anyway, I have to say that it has been a benefit to both of us to have this relationship. I think I have gotten as much out of it as she has. It's helped me to grow as a person. I had a big support group as a child of many cousins, and I think that was what was the catalyst for me wanting to give back, because I always thought I was very lucky to have a huge support.
Excellent.
Having a single parent as well. But not all children are privileged to have that. And although she does have a huge family, I was an influence in other ways, exposing her to things out in the community that she might not have experienced.
Wonderful.
So it's been a great relationship. And I think it'll be one that we continue into our adult years. I mean, she'll be going off to college next year.
Oh, my goodness. Isn't that
And I'll be ready for
something?
another little.
Right.
But she always wanted to say, and my biggest question was to her, don't you want somebody younger? And she would always say to me, no, you're perfect. So
Wonderful.
that's why age should not be a factor.
Right.
I think we have a lot to offer.
That's right.
And Hadley, if you would give us an idea of how you check into these big brothers and sisters.
Sure.
I'm sure there's a lot of work to that also.
There is.
You
We do
just
it.
don't go out and say, hi, come on in.
No, there's a very thorough process involved. We meet initially with a volunteer. Really, that meeting tends to be about an hour and a half, where our case manager really asks a number of questions about the person's childhood, about their experiences in life, about the child that they'd like to work with, about really addressing issues also around what a volunteer thinks they can handle. And I think that's a very important piece. Even things from Doris's interest in animals, which I think was a really wonderful thing. Also, too, I know that you were asked questions probably around, what issues could you deal with that a family might bring forward?
Yes.
Because we really want to be clear that a volunteer can manage certain situations or not, and that we
Sure.
want to really honor that. So we go through that very thorough interview process. We do a thorough background check, both through references and then what's called a query or a criminal record
Right.
check. We need to get copies of licenses and registration, because obviously you'll be driving a child, and we do a thorough background check on that information as well.
Right.
And I think it's important then to really mention, you were saying that you waited, about 5 months before you were matched? We do have
Really?
volunteers that end up waiting for a period of time, and littles as well. But the reason being behind that is that our case managers work so hard to make sure that that match, when it's made, is a great one. Because we want to see
And
stories
mine
like
was.
this. And I mean, I should say Doris is really a superwoman in my mind. I mean, that the length of your match
Thank you.
is extraordinary. And we don't want to discourage people that say, geez, I don't want to make more than a 1-year commitment, because in some cases,
Sure.
that's what happens.
Oh, sure.
And
many of us don't know where we're going to be in a year.
that's right.
So,
And a year is great. A year in the life of a child is really impactful. But I like to just, reference the fact that there could be that waiting period of time, again, for a big and for a little, because we want to be sure once that connection is made, it's a great one.
I think the
that's so
geography played a part in it for me, too.
cute. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think there were more children available at that point in time further out on the Cape, and since I live over the bridge, it was to find somebody that was geographically close to me as
Oh,
well.
very good.
Right, and that's an important point to address. So, for instance, if we looked right now in the Sandwich, Mashpee, Falmouth area, we have a large number of boys that are waiting, not a significant number
okay.
of girls. We are bringing more littles who are female into the program to match them with waiting volunteers who are female, but in particular, At the moment, we have a real need for men, for adult male volunteers to step forward, so anything we can do to plug that.
Oh,
and get the word
sure.
out. When you think about geography
Right.
and an abundance of kids in need, it's very significant.
Is there, not a definite, but is there a number of kids you have in this program already?
We are serving 150 children across the Cape and Islands.
My goodness.
Yep, and we plan to have made another 60 matches by the end of our fiscal year. And then going forward, we are embarking on a strategic plan right now, which has us serving more than 250 new children in the coming 5 years. That's really our goal. We think it's really
Quite a
impactful.
goal.
It is a big goal.
The need is out there.
But the need is out there. The model really works. You know, if we can think about if we could get these 250 children to stay in school,
Very good.
stay in the Cape, thrive, and do well, that's a pretty terrific thing to achieve. And we feel like this responsible adult matched with the little can make all that difference
Sure.
at this key point in their lives. So.
And do you have a problem, we hear about foreclosures all the time. Do you have a problem with like a foreclosure and the child has to move to another sector, or do you
Well,
have a
certainly,
problem?
those situations certainly come up. We are doing our best to identify families who are in a stable situation before a child gets referred. You don't really want to go out and try to find a little who's, let's say, in
Right.
a very tenuous situation. We've even had discussions lately with some organizations that have families living in shelters, and you know, how do you address that? We haven't yet
Right,
quite figured
sure.
out how to manage that, because you know, it's a challenge if a child might be moving 2 months from now. We don't want to
Right.
pair volunteer with someone
Right.
who is in a tenuous situation. So,
But even 2 months is better than nothing.
well, it's better than
You
nothing.
know, a positive 2 months.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, the goal would be a year, and really
Right.
being sure that we're finding a family who, let's say, has been in Sandwich and plans to stay in
Sure.
Sandwich, and could there
And
be
of course,
changes?
you-
Anybody's life can change.
Anybody's life can change.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So you're very interested in seniors,
We are. Yes.
and I agree with you. Seniors have a great deal to give, and they are giving. I keep talking about the senior is no longer an older person.
Right.
That's right.
They aren't. They have a lot to give. They may be retired, but they want to give back.
That's right.
So
So
this would be a wonderful way of doing it.
It really would. It would be terrific. And I think, you know, questions that come up for people sometimes are, it's just not just around the time commitment, but will this cost a lot of money? You know, do I have to go out and take a child to dinner every single week? And
Right.
go to the movies and all of that?
No.
There's certainly volunteers that choose to do that.
That's right.
It's not a requirement.
Right.
A lot of situations, again, when I even think about, you know, the boys that are waiting, these are kids that could use someone to throw a ball with them.
Sure.
To go on a walk,
Right.
to maybe go fishing. We have a great local volunteer in the Mid-Cape area who does woodworking with a child who had lost his dad and who really loved to do that stuff with his dad.
Right,
And that's become just
sure.
such a special thing that they do together. It doesn't cost anything. It's just that
Right,
time.
right.
And it's really, really critical, really important. So again, I always like to let people know that. Not that you can't choose to do things
Sure.
that might have some expense, but that's not something that we are
It's
looking
not
at.
a
for.
necessity, sure.
That's
Yep.
not what our model's about.
I have a next door neighbor who's been a big brother for better than 15 years.
Really?
Wow.
Just loves it.
Really?
Just absolutely loves it.
Oh, that's good
Yeah.
to know.
To Hadley's point, it could be something, it's not really about what you do with them. Initially, for me, it was because I wanted her to experience other things, and I was in a different financial position. But then when I opened up my own business here, that created, you know, I had to be creative.
Right.
So whether it was that we went kayaking together, we planted a vegetable garden together, we cooked together, it was simple things, doing homework. Just simple things, and maybe an occasional movie or an outing, but it really wasn't about what we did together. It was more about how we spent that time together. I put more time into it than what was required because I enjoyed being with her and I felt that she needed more attention. But it's really about the quality of time that you spend with them, and it's the influence. I mean, it doesn't have to cost you anything.
I had a conversation last night, of course being the Christmas season, with a friend who said his funds are low and he's not going to be able to give as he has in the past. I said, you know, giving of your time is the best, the very best gift you can give to family as well as to a little. Right. And by the way, I love the little and big.
It's catchy.
I thought you had forgotten to finish the sentence.
No.
But I think you make a really good point. I've thought about that as well during the holidays, that it's really a great, even a New Year's resolution for people to think about, that I'm going to give of myself in this way. Starting in January for a year, I'm going to give a couple of hours a couple of times a month. What does that really take? Right. It doesn't take a lot. And the impact, again, you know, for a child that doesn't get that attention, it's enormous.
The rewards are enormous when you see that child grow and prosper and how you influence them.
Yeah.
It's immeasurable.
I don't doubt that at all.
Yeah.
Do you have any fundraising that you do throughout the year for the Big Brothers Big Sisters?
Sure. Well, we are absolutely fundraising driven. So that's where all of our funding comes in for our staff. So we have a number of different events that we participate in. We have a golf tournament that will be coming up early summer at the Ridge Club, which is a wonderful event and great fundraiser. We do fundraisers as well on the islands. But we're also in the midst of really driving a larger individual contribution goal, really trying to bring in more significant individual donors across the board on the Cape who want to get involved with our organization and give in that way. So fundraising is a very key piece of our mission, and grant writing as well. So.
Do you have a large staff?
We actually have I call it a small but mighty staff.
For sure.
Yeah, 2 full-time case managers. We have a part-time administrative assistant and a full-time development officer. And we're lucky now, actually, through the Mature Workers Program at Elder Services of Cape Cod and the Islands, to have a part-time administrative assistant
wonderful.
that's come to us through them, and that's just a great
That's
program.
very good. So are you funded by any governmental agency?
We're really not. We do get a small amount of funding from some of the towns where we're serving a number of children.
Right.
Each town has a human service pocket of funding for which they'll support local agencies that are working with kids that reside in their town. So that is really the only, I would say, governmental or local municipal funding that we get. Everything else is just pure fundraising dollars. So.
And how many towns do you cover? All of the Cape?
So it's a great question. We have been in recent years, due to the economic downturn and some just basic restructuring, focused more on the Mid and Upper Cape in addition to the islands. But we are now branching out to reach to the Lower Cape, which is really terrific. I live in Orleans, so I was really kind of pushing for that.
Sure.
When I started just knowing how many kids across the board on the Cape need support, from Bourne to Provincetown. So we are starting to reach out to more kids. And again, when you even think about needs, there's a figure out there that's provided by Barnstable County that says that there's more than 2,000 children living in single-parent, under-resourced households from Bourne to Provincetown. So when you think about our goal to work with 250 children, there's really 2,000 kids out there, if not more.
Sad. It's sad.
Amazing. Yeah. And I don't remember the statistics for seniors living on the Cape, but I know that's up there too.
It's really up there.
Yeah.
So we hope they'll
So you
to
have,
work with us.
I'm sure you have a pretty good ratio, or the possibility of a pretty good ratio of seniors to children.
Absolutely. We know the volunteers are out there. We just need them to come forward. So.
And what's the youngest age of child that you have working with in the community?
We're working with children ages 7 to 12. I would say on the end, the older end, we are still working with matches. How old is your littlest?
She's 17.
She's 17.
Yeah.
So we do have kids that are still in our program because we have such great committed volunteers who do this for years and years. But the bigger window of age is 7 to 12, with the majority of children who are coming in closer to that younger end. But certainly some kids that are 12 are coming into the program.
That's wonderful.
And might stay until they're 15, 16.
It's wonderful.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure your person Doris, will never forget you. I mean, going off to college.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
so she's really spreading her wings.
She's excelled in ways that I can't even tell you, she's just incredible. That's all I can tell you. She's incredible.
Yeah.
I've always called her the best kid in America because she's such a great kid.
That's wonderful. Obviously, you're very compatible.
Yes. Well, it's a developed relationship over the years, and I think as she matured, it becomes a relationship of mutual respect.
Excellent.
And
Excellent.
caring, and I've always tried to be there for her, spiritually, emotionally, support her needs in any way that I could or any way that I saw was necessary.
Sure.
With also the support of her, she has aunts that have cared for her. So I think that all of us collectively have had an influence on her over the years. And I have the next 10 years to look forward to see what what her accomplishments will be. And I think there'll be many because she's made so many in the past few years. And one of the great things about Big Brothers and Big Sisters that we haven't touched on too is that sometimes, and I'm not sure Hadley could touch on this, but they get tickets that are donated to them to events. And it's really great because the caseworkers will put an email out there saying, okay, we just got these tickets. Who would like to attend this event?
Oh, how nice.
So it's been great. I mean, we've been, Cirque du Soleil, Circus Smirkus when she was little that came into town. We've been to a couple of Red Sox games. We went to a Bruins game, movies. So the support factor is there, and I have to say, as an organization, they have been so supportive of our relationship. Our caseworker, no matter who it's been, is always followed up, on the progress of the little, how the relationship was going. In the beginning, it was a challenge because of my relationship with her mom. So that's where my caseworker really was very supportive and followed up a lot. And they do anything that they can to help you.
Wonderful.
They also have an endowment called Helen's Horizon Fund that also enabled my little to go to tennis camp last year.
Oh, how wonderful.
And she will also apply now for a scholarship for college.
Excellent.
So
and
there's so many opportunities.
I was going to ask you if there was any way you have of feedback from the family as to how well this is going in the family because of your helping.
Sure. Well, just like Doris is describing the work with our case managers, following up regularly with our bigs to see that things are going well, they're also reaching out to the family of the little in our program. So that's a very close relationship and really designed to be sure that the support that the child needs, he or she is getting.
Yes.
Any concerns that the parent have, those are raised. It's really, again, it's a partnership across the board between family, volunteer, and our program, and our staff who are just really committed and terrific. I just wanted to speak to also, because I think that was a great point around all the enrichment opportunities, that we are always looking for local businesses, organizations to reach out to us and say, geez, maybe it's a local Audubon or a local boat excursion group, and they want to call us and say, we'd love to have a group of 10 littles and bigs go out to go fishing.
Wonderful.
Anything like that people want to step forward and talk to us about, that's wonderful. We just actually got a grant to be able to implement some more enrichment activities to offer to our local volunteers and kids. But we encourage people to give us a call if they've got some ideas.
Speaking of giving a call, we need a phone number.
Absolutely. So our local number is 508-771-5150.
Okay. This has been an absolutely fantastic thing for me to learn the background of the bigs and the littles. And I thank you both so much for being here. And I also thank you out there for being here at Sandwich Seniority. We appreciate your time, your energy. If there's anything out there that you would like us to discuss on this program, by all means, contact Sandwich Access TV. And they will get the message to me, and we'll do what we can, and hope that you're enjoying it. Again, for Sandwich Seniority, I'm Robbie Haig. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.